My SIL, Catherine, who invited her lawyer fiancé to our house, looked at me when I brought tea and said,
"She is from a single-parent family, just a high school graduate, but she'll be useful as a maid."
She introduced me that way. Catherine has never even called me by name, let alone SIL. Sure, I may be from a single-parent family and only have a high school diploma, but neither my mother nor I live in a way that we'd be ashamed of. Then, Catherine's fiancé suddenly burst out laughing.
What are you saying, Catherine? Are you testing me? And not falling for that trick?
What?
Catherine blinked her big eyes. My name is Alice, 30 years old. Currently, I'm a housewife with a 1-year-old daughter. Before marriage, I worked as a cleaner in a high-rise building. My husband, Thomas, worked for the company in the building. Thomas dislikes crowded elevators and always uses the stairs in the morning. He would always greet me cheerfully as I cleaned the stairs during that time. That's how we met, and we got married after 2 years of dating. Thomas works for a large corporation, and his father is the head of another company's headquarters. I hesitated a little when I received a marriage proposal. I was happy, but I was wondering if he was okay with me growing up in a single-parent family. I've never felt ashamed of it myself, but I knew that family background and education can be issues in marriage. But it was needless worry. My in-laws, John and Sarah, welcomed me and were generous in celebrating our marriage. They suggested living together in a big house when we got married, and we all live together now. My mother usually doesn't interfere, but she always says to rely on her whenever we're in trouble. I'm happy to be a part of such a wonderful family. Among those who make me feel that way, there's one person who troubles me. It was my husband's sister, Catherine.
Are you kidding me? You didn't go to college.
When my husband introduced me to Catherine, that was her first reaction. Yes, I came from a single-parent family and wanted to start working early to help my mother. As I answered, Catherine twisted her cute face.
You're from a single-parent family. Is there really someone like that? And you're marrying my brother. It's totally gold-digging.
What nonsense are you talking about? Alice isn't thinking about marrying into money.
My husband laughed and didn't pay attention to her.
Hey, you're being deceived. I'm just worried about my brother.
Yeah, thanks. Both Dad and Mom have accepted and blessed us. Isn't that enough to understand Alice's character?
Really? Dad and Mom approved it too.
Catherine seemed genuinely surprised. Then, as we passed each other, she glared at me with frustration and whispered to herself so that my husband couldn't hear.
I'll never accept you as our family.
True to her declaration, even after marriage, Catherine disliked me. Of course, she never called me SIL but instead referred to me as high school graduate. What's despicable about Catherine is that she never utters such words in front of my husband or in-laws. Her harsh words and calling me high school graduate were reserved for when she spoke to me directly. But I couldn't tell my good-natured in-laws about my sister-in-law's harassment. The in-laws don't want to hear their son's wife tell them about her own daughter, and I doubt they will believe it. I told my husband once that I felt like Catherine hated me.
She's spoiled rotten because she's always been pampered. It must irk her that Dad and Mom like Alice.
But my husband just laughed it off. Catherine usually behaves very politely and aristocratically. Even her own brother, Thomas, probably has never seen her true colors. In reality, Catherine attended a prestigious private girls' school from middle school through college, and after graduating, she worked as a receptionist at a major corporation. She's had the epitome of a privileged upbringing.
Do you even know the educational background and occupation of our family? We're elite. There's no way we could ever accept someone like you, a high school graduate, marrying in for money.
When we were alone, she would insult me like that. That's not it. Please listen. I just married Thomas because I love him.
You just deceived my honest and kind brother. I won't stand for it. I'll expose your true colors and make sure you're driven out.
It seems that Catherine can't stand the idea of a high school graduate like me joining her perfect life as a family member. And that mysterious anger of hers seemed to swell even more when I became pregnant and gave birth. That was when I returned to my in-laws' house after giving birth with our baby girl, Emily, in my arms.
It would have been better if you hadn't come back,
Catherine said without a word of congratulations, looking at me with cold eyes.
You're just trying to secure your place in this house by having a child. That's typical of someone with only a high school education. But even if you pass on those low-class genes, it won't be suitable for our family.
After going through childbirth for the first time and still feeling exhausted, I couldn't help but argue against such cruelty. Forget about me, but don't speak ill of my baby. She is a treasure to Thomas and me.
That's true. It is for you, isn't it?
Catherine smirked maliciously with her refined face.
A child tainted with the genes of a high school graduate isn't intellectually suitable for our household. You should leave with her right away.
How can you say such terrible things? She's your niece.
It's all your fault. Got it? All your fault? If it were someone with a proper background and a good college education marrying my brother, I'd welcome her with open arms.
Look beyond the titles and see the substance of a person. I couldn't help but retort strongly. Catherine's mouth twisted.
Oh, are you feeling feisty today? Do you think you're all high and mighty now that you've had a child? If that child is precious to you, then be mindful of your position.
What a horrible thing to say.
Of course, if you tell on my mom or brother, you won't get away with it.
Catherine looked at Emily in my arms as she said this. I was horrified by her gaze and her words. I was terrified of what she might do to Emily. I had to protect Emily at all costs. As I fell silent, Catherine looked down at me with satisfaction and walked away. After that, I became even more cautious than before to avoid provoking Catherine. I tried my best to avoid any interaction with her and made sure not to say anything unnecessary when we gathered as a family or when Catherine was around. Eventually, I was so preoccupied with taking care of my first child that I didn't have the energy to worry about Catherine anymore. Since Catherine didn't pay as much attention to me as before, I briefly hoped that she had softened her attitude towards Emily's cuteness. But I was wrong.
Oh, enough already. Isn't she crying too much? It's probably because of those genes from a high school graduate.
Catherine would yell like that during the period when Emily cried a lot at night. Babies cry, you know?
I'm telling you, her crying is abnormal. Normally they stop crying right away, don't they? Can't you even take care of a child properly? You really can't do anything.
I thought Catherine, yelling with a devilish expression, was much noisier. In fact, neither my husband nor my in-laws would wake up even when Emily cried at night. Well, I think my husband could wake up if he wanted to. Even when talking to friends who had children of the same age, Emily's crying, which would stop as soon as she was picked up, seemed adorable. But of course, I wouldn't say that out loud. With little sleep and exhausted from childcare, I didn't have the energy to argue back at that time. In the end, the only thing that changed was that there were fewer opportunities for her to curse at me, as I was busy taking care of the baby all the time. She hadn't changed at all. If anything, her attitude towards me had become harsher. Still, as long as I endured it, everything else in this household went smoothly. I spent my days supported by the love for my daughter. More than a year passed in this way. Then, one day, the living room was buzzing with the news that Catherine was getting married. It seemed that there would be a meeting between the two families at a restaurant. While changing my daughter's diaper and listening from behind, Catherine approached me.
My fiancé will come over next week. Make sure you behave properly.
Isn't it a meeting at the restaurant?
Yes, at a high-end restaurant. But my brother insisted on introducing him to everyone at home.
I see. Congratulations.
You will serve us tea then. By the way, my fiancé is a lawyer.
What, a lawyer? Catherine seemed pleased with my reaction.
Are you that surprised? Well, you wouldn't have a chance to meet someone like him, being a high school graduate and all.
No, that's not what I meant.
Your acquaintance is only the cleaning lady. There's a world of difference, isn't there?
There's no difference in occupation. The seniors at my workplace are all respectable people.
Yay, it's a small world, isn't it? You should learn your place properly. Anyway, serve us tea, will you?
For Catherine, who prioritized status, having a lawyer as her fiancé was something to boast about. She's still the same as ever. By the way, her fiancé is a lawyer. At night, even my husband mentioned it.
Next week, Catherine's bringing her fiancé over to introduce him to us. So be nice, okay?
Sure, I heard. She asked me to serve them tea.
Oh, really? I see. Since Mom and Dad are going shopping before heading to the restaurant, they're not here, right? Then I'll watch over Emily while they're gone.
Okay. I heard Catherine's fiancé is a lawyer.
Seems like it.
Do you know his name?
Yay, I know it.
Tell me. And also, there's something I need to talk to you about.
What's that?
And then the day arrived. My in-laws had left earlier, and Catherine arrived with her fiancé.
Hey, bro, this is my fiancé, Daniel.
Nice to meet you. I'm Daniel.
I'm Thomas, her brother. Nice to meet you, too.
As my husband exchanged greetings, Emily, who had been napping, woke up, and her cries could be heard.
Sorry, I'll be right back.
As my husband left the living room, I went to get some tea and sweets.
Thank you.
Daniel, Catherine's fiancé, said politely. But Catherine, with a quick glance at me, said to her fiancé,
Daniel, doesn't this woman look like a maid? She's technically my SIL, but I'd rather not call her that.
What?
Yay, you can't tell, can you? She's from a single-parent family, just a high school graduate, but she'd be useful as a housekeeper.
She introduced me that way. It's true I'm from a single-parent family, and I'm just a high school graduate, but neither my mother nor I lead lives to be ashamed of. Then, Catherine's fiancé suddenly burst out laughing.
What are you saying, Catherine? Are you testing me? I won't fall for that.
What?
Catherine's eyes widened in surprise.
You're trying to see how I'll react, right? Testing my character.
Wait, what are you saying, Daniel?
Well, what?
She's married to my brother, but she's not our family. Just think of her as a housekeeper.
Okay, Catherine, that's enough. You surprised me.
How come?
It's surprising that Catherine's SIL is the daughter of Maria, a lawyer. What a small world.
What are you talking about?
Catherine exclaimed in shock. Then, Daniel turned to me.
Long time no see. You're Alice, right? I'm Daniel, who was doing legal training at the law firm where your mother worked.
Yeah, it's been a while, Daniel. You've really become quite impressive.
Oh, I'm still far from it. But it's surprising, isn't it, to meet again like this? How's your mom doing?
Hey, wait a minute. Are you acquainted?
As Daniel and I smiled at each other, Catherine's voice suddenly changed. He answered, looking puzzled.
What are you talking about? This was supposed to be a surprise, you know. Back in the day, I really looked up to Maria.
Who is that Maria, the lawyer?
Maria is Alice's mother.
What?
Catherine was momentarily shocked, then burst into laughter.
Daniel, you've got the wrong person. Oh, this is too funny.
You think that's funny?
This woman here is a high school graduate, and it's just her and her mother. Her mother's only a high school graduate. There's no way a poor family like that could know someone like you.
As Catherine proudly spoke, his expression gradually changed. Oh no, is this okay?
So, were you serious earlier? About calling your SIL Alice a housekeeper?
As if unaware of his changing tone, Catherine continued to laugh.
So you don't have to call her sister. Just think of her as a high school graduate. She deceived my brother into marrying her for money.
Catherine, you're not acting, are you? Do you really believe that?
Yay, so don't worry. You don't have to consider her part of your family even if you marry me.
Right. I see.
The mismatched conversation between Catherine, who seemed oblivious to everything, and her fiancé, who seemed to have figured it all out, was comical.
Well, let's head to the restaurant where Mom and Dad are waiting.
No, I can't go.
What's wrong?
I'm calling off our engagement.
What are you talking about?
Catherine's voice rose sharply as she forced a smile.
I'm disappointed to find out what kind of person you really are. Speaking ill of your brother's wife, who's become family.
Wait, why does our engagement have to end because of that? You don't say such things to other people. You're saying she's not suitable for my brother or even you because she's a high school graduate from a single-parent family, right?
Panicking, Catherine continued to heap scorn upon me.
So, you're looking down on Alice just because she's a high school graduate from a single-parent family.
He took a deep breath.
This woman is the daughter of a lawyer I deeply respect.
What's going on?
Catherine's eyes widened.
That means you've got the wrong person, right? It's impossible. Could the daughter of the lawyer be a high school graduate, and before marriage, she worked as a cleaner?
You judge people based on their profession and education, don't you?
Is it wrong?
Catherine's expression changed at her fiancé's icy tone.
You can become a lawyer even without graduating from college. Don't you know that?
Is it really?
Daniel, can I talk? I interjected, turning to him for confirmation before facing Catherine. True, my mother and I both graduated from high school. But my mother is a lawyer.
A high school graduate can't take the bar exam.
Sure, to take the bar exam, you have to either study at a law school or pass a preliminary exam. My mother studied hard and passed the preliminary exam, qualifying to take the bar exam.
A preliminary exam.
It's an exam that proves the same level of competence as graduating from law school. It requires tremendous effort, but for a high school graduate, this would be the quickest route.
Catherine's fiancé added.
Do you really think only those who graduate from a university's law school can become lawyers? You who graduated from a good university must know better than that, right?
I didn't know that.
What about after passing the bar exam?
I know about that. Just passing the bar exam isn't enough. You have to undergo a year-long apprenticeship to become a lawyer, right?
Yes, legal apprenticeship.
And she passed that while raising a child in a single-parent household.
That's why I graduated high school.
Is that so?
My mom decided to become a lawyer, so she studied tirelessly while working. It took her 3 years to pass the preliminary exam, and she passed the bar exam on her second attempt. That was when I was in 9th grade.
And
Apprentices receive a stipend and housing allowance, but it's just enough to focus on their training without worrying about living expenses. It wouldn't be enough with a child. I nodded and continued. My mom married and gave birth to me by running away couple when she was young, so she couldn't rely on her parents even after the divorce. She encouraged me to go to college, but I chose to work.
are you that proud? You're still a high school graduate.
I've seen firsthand how hard my mom studied. I wanted her to be able to dedicate herself to her apprenticeship without worrying about money. That's why working and earning money was the best option for me at the time. I still believe that, and I have no regrets. Then I heard a sobbing sound.
Sniff, sniff.
Mom, are you crying about this story again?
Because it can't be helped.
Mom, Thomas.
Catherine paled as she saw Thomas holding his daughter and her mother suddenly entering.
Mom, why are you here? Since when?
I knew from the start, from when you started calling Alice a maid or something.
Oh, no.
You were worried about Alice's lack of education at first, but then you stopped saying anything, so I thought you understood. But turns out, you were just putting on an act in front of us.
That is.
Alice never snitched on anyone, you know. But after our baby was born, when even Emily became the target of your criticism, she finally opened up to me.
Even John and I couldn't believe it, that Catherine would look down on Alice and bully her.
Well, Mom, that's not it.
It's too late now.
What?
Thomas asked me to leave and come back today because I didn't believe him when he told me.
Oh my God.
Do you have any idea how shocked I was seeing your completely different side?
Oh no.
With a flat tone, my Mill said something completely different from the emotional state she was in just now.
I also connected John, who's at the restaurant, on the phone.
What do you mean?
Unfortunately, it seems like we'll have to cancel.
Why would you do that?
I'm sorry, Sarah, for deciding to break off the engagement without asking.
Daniel, I should be the one apologizing. Sorry for what our daughter did.
Wait a minute, what's going on here? Hold on.
Catherine looked like she was about to burst into tears any moment now.
It's a relief that your fiancé is a decent guy. I thought he'd know Alice's mom at least when he said he's a lawyer. Never thought they'd actually know each other.
Yeah, I was surprised too. I exchanged glances with my husband.
What's going on exactly? What does this mean?
Catherine glared at me, her eyes watery. I told you before we got married that my mom's a lawyer, but you don't remember, how? You never intended to become family with me, who is from a single-parent family, did you? Maybe you didn't even listen.
I didn't hear anything about that.
Your fiancé mentioned being a lawyer, so I passed on the name to my mom. I never thought he'd be someone who was in legal training.
And then what did you do?
I didn't do anything.
Don't lie to me.
I just got a call from Maria, that's all. She just told me congratulations on my engagement.
Oh, what?
I haven't told my mom or Daniel about what you did. If you had introduced me to them as just a normal SIL, none of this would have happened.
That is not.
Catherine turned pale.
But even if your mom is a liar, the fact remains that you are a high school graduate and haven't done any studying. Once your mom started making money, you relied on that, and now you're relying on a rich big brother.
No, Alice has a qualification as a judicial scrivener.
Really? A judicial scrivener?
Catherine's eyes widened.
She studied while working as a cleaner.
Following in my mom's footsteps. Now I'm focusing on raising my kid, though.
And she also has a qualification as a cleaner. What was it again? You know.
A professional house cleaner. It's a national qualification.
Seriously.
That's impressive.
Daniel said admiringly. You look down on cleaners, but I think it's an important job. Your prestigious alma mater and big corporations stay clean because of people doing that kind of work, you know?
Maybe.
And when I started working after high school, my seniors and colleagues never looked down on me. They all taught me the job carefully, and I respect them as people. Daniel nodded.
Your ability to go to a good university on an escalator is thanks to your parents, right? Have you shown gratitude or put in effort yourself? I have way more respect for people who work hard in society, even if they only have a high school education, than those who look down on others based on their academic background.
Hey, Daniel.
I was really disappointed in you.
Hey, why? Why am I going through this? Why?
Surrounded by everyone's cold gaze, Catherine broke down in tears. After that, the engagement was called off, and no matter how much Catherine begged, it couldn't be reversed. Our usually mild-mannered Mill and Phil were furious after hearing the whole story.
Try living on your own strength for once.
And they kicked Catherine out of the house. Catherine, who had been boasting about marrying a lawyer, couldn't bear the curious looks from others and ended up quitting her job. Because she's so proud and concerned about her status, finding a new job is proving difficult. She sometimes comes back home to seek forgiveness, but she's promptly sent away at the front door by her parents. I once said to Catherine, "Should I introduce you to a cleaning job?"
Don't be ridiculous. There's no way I'd do such a bottom-tier job.
And she shouted and stormed out, even though there's still hope if she could just ask for help here. People really don't change that easily. As for me, I've been relieved of the suffocation I felt alone and have been raising my children freely. I was apologized to by my in-laws and husband, and I apologize to them for keeping quiet. Our family bond seems to have deepened even more. Catherine's ex-fiancé, Daniel, reunited with my mother, and she was also delighted. I couldn't become a brother-in-law with him, but I think we can continue to have a good relationship.
Mom, it's here.
My 2-year-old daughter, who can now speak 2-word sentences, said excitedly. Emily. As I picked her up, she giggled happily. I've promised myself to continue living in a way that I won't be ashamed of to this child, just like my mother did for me. As I looked at my daughter's innocent smile, I made a vow in my heart.
On the phone, my sister was gloating as usual. She seemed to really enjoy tormenting me and making me feel miserable. I could easily imagine the spiteful smirk on her face.
I'm getting married, you know? I'll be expecting a gift of $10,000 from you.
The man she's marrying is my ex-fiancé. Yes, incredibly, she stole my fiancé from me. What a terrible woman. It's really sickening to think I'm related to her by blood. But to me now, she's no enemy. Her gloating is just laughable. I won't let her have her way anymore. I responded as cheerfully as I could. Sure, I'll be there with my husband, the CEO who makes $300 million a year. I could picture the confused look on her face. Before she could ask any probing questions, I hung up. It's going to be a tearful wedding. Tears of regret, not joy. My name is Emily, and I'm 33 years old. Ever since I can remember, I've been trampled on by my sister. My sister, Lisa, is 2 years older than me. She's capable of doing everything without a hitch, and she's both beautiful and stylish. But in my opinion, her inner self is just vile. She always ridiculed me.
I refuse to acknowledge a failure like you as my sister, you know?
I still remember her cold gaze. Being looked down upon, the young me was incredibly hurt. I was always made to feel small because everything I did was criticized. Lisa, standing tall and proud, and me, with my back hunched. We were such contrasting sisters. There's no denying Lisa is pretty. Both our parents always fussed over her, the good-looking one. Meanwhile, plain old me was ignored. The difference in treatment was clear. Looking back, it's like we were the very embodiment of light and shadow. Lisa was popular at school, too. She was good at studies and sports, and pretty. Cheerful and bright, she was the center of attention. The typical top of the social hierarchy, her influence at school was huge. You might think I benefited somehow from being her sister, but no, that was far from the case. She despised me for being slow-witted, so I faced losses rather than gains.
Don't you dare speak to me at school. I really hate you, you know?
It was unbearable hearing her say that in front of everyone. Everyone around me saw me as the family-approved punching bag. There was no smile on my face during my school days. That's for sure. Whenever my sister interacted with me, her attitude was always the worst, and her language was incredibly foul. I was the only one who knew her ugly true nature. I don't think even our parents knew the full extent. In middle school, I stood up to my sister just once. I couldn't just take it anymore. I felt I had to retaliate somehow. Stop taking your stress out on me all the time.
What? How dare you, the younger sister, talk back to me?
As a result, I ended up being treated even worse than before. It was then that my things began to be used without permission or even thrown away. Whether it was school-related or not, my sister used and treated my belongings however she wanted. Stop it! Please, at least don't mess up my textbooks and stationery.
It's your fault for being so cheeky. You need to reflect and apologize.
I think our parents must have been aware of the nature of our fights. They must have known that my sister was unilaterally exerting her power and tormenting me, the weaker one. But they did nothing about it. As long as it made my sister happy, what happened to me didn't matter to them. Our other relatives were no different. No one would reprimand my sister. No one would help me. I still despise my parents and relatives for that. They are as guilty as my sister. My sister would act sweet in front of the family but show her demonic nature only to me. My parents, who must have had an inkling of her two-faced nature, chose to ignore it. Relatives, too, side as an issue between the parties involved and opted to remain bystanders. In such a toxic environment, it was inevitable that I, a naive child, would develop a distrust of people. I became isolated, withdrawn, and as I grew up, I turned into an increasingly introverted and quiet woman. I wanted to cut ties with my sister, parents, and relatives as soon as possible and start a completely new life. That became a vague dream of mine. Imagining myself living freely, liberated from all ties. helped me preserve my fragile mind. However, an incident that cemented the hostile relationship between my sister and me happened. When she was a freshman in college and I was a sophomore in high school. At that time, I was at the peak of happiness. I had a boyfriend for the first time in my life. I was surprised myself that someone as negative as me could have a boyfriend. His name was Joe. We were in the same grade, both library committee members, and similarly introverted. I think our wavelengths just matched. We got to know each other through a slight connection and quickly became close. Some people teased us, calling us the gloomy couple, but we ignored them. Let them say whatever they want. No one could interfere with us. That's how strongly I felt. I was so intoxicated with the first sense of fulfillment that I seemed to lose sight of everything around me. And then I made a mistake. Carried away, I revealed to my parents about my boyfriend. I've been dating a boy my age. His name is Joe. My parents always compared me to my sister, calling me slow and making fun of me. I wanted to prove to them that I could get a boyfriend too. There's no doubt that my heart was overflowing with such show-off feelings at the time. It might have been wrong of me. A while after summer vacation began, the daily messages from Joe suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Did something happen? I asked in emails, but there was no reply. Normally, you would check with mutual friends in such a situation. But unfortunately, we didn't have any. I didn't have the courage to visit his house either. Exactly 2 weeks after the communication ceased, Joe emailed me saying goodbye. It wasn't a joke. I couldn't just accept being broken up with without knowing why. I called him to find out why he suddenly wanted to break up. Please tell me the reason. I can't accept this without understanding why. Joe just kept repeating, I'm really sorry. In the end, I never got a detailed explanation. All I could do was accept the breakup he announced. From that afternoon until midnight, I cried nonstop without eating anything. A few days later, when I visited a mall for an errand, I encountered a scene that made me doubt my eyes. My sister and Joe were walking arm in arm. What the hell is this? What's going on? I yelled right there, not caring about the eyes of passers-by. I was boiling with anger towards my sister and Joe. My sister pulled Joe closer as if to flaunt him and smirk.
Joe says he prefers me over you.
I can't believe this. Who normally steals their sister's boyfriend?
Say whatever you want. A gloomy loser like you having a boyfriend is a century too early.
Joe just hung his head, looking sorry and not moving. He seemed ashamed of his fickleness, yet also resigned. I later found out that my parents had told my sister about Joe. Upon learning that I had a boyfriend, my sister said it was presumptuous of me. The surprise came next. During her summer break from college, my sister approached Joe multiple times. Joe, tempted by my experienced sister, quickly fell into her hands.
Well, we'll take our leave then. Being alone suits you better.
I was overwhelmed with rage. What made me even angrier was what happened afterward. The day after we met at the mall, my sister dumped Joe. I think she felt satisfied with the harassment she inflicted on me and no longer needed him. Joe called me wanting to meet and apologize in person, saying he wanted to start over. There was no way we could. I rejected him and confirmed our breakup again. I couldn't stop crying. Until my college days and up to my 5th year as a working adult, there wasn't much to write about. I excluded my sister from my life and lived trying not to remember the unpleasant things. Since I still resented my parents and relatives, I didn't go back home, not even for the holidays or Christmas. The only time I willingly returned home was when a gathering for adults was held in my hometown. I had resolved never to set foot there again after that event. At the time, my sister was a senior in college, enjoying her last year to the fullest. She came back at the same time as me and got drunk, rambling on and on.
My current boyfriend is the worst. Can you believe he's cheating on me, even though he has me?
The world is vast, and there are always better people out there. It seemed there were many women at university prettier than my sister. She vented her frustration about not always being the top until she was satisfied. I got my second boyfriend when I became comfortable with my job and had some breathing space in life. We met through a friend's introduction. His name was Tyler, an elite banker.
Both my parents are bankers, so I guess I'm a thoroughbred.
Saying that he liked curious-looking women like me. He always made me feel good. Because of the bitter memories from high school, I told no one about my boyfriend. After a year of dating, Tyler proposed to me, and I was finally able to get engaged. I thought I could finally be happy. I decided not to tell my parents or sister about the engagement. I shared with Tyler and his parents in detail how my family had made me suffer. I thought they would surely sympathize and understand my desire to cut ties with my family. That's what I was thinking, but a few weeks after the engagement, the unbelievable happened again. My sister stole Tyler from me, repeating the nightmare of high school. When I suddenly couldn't contact him, Tyler broke up with me after a while.
Emily, I'm sorry. I've fallen for someone else.
You're kidding, right? Tell me it's not my sister, please.
How did you know?
I was utterly confused. I had kept my relationship with him a secret. I hadn't told anyone in my family, nor had I planned to. Yet somehow, my sister found out. Why though? What caused this? That's when I started to consider revenge and thoroughly investigated my sister, especially how she got my information. Life is strange. In the process of taking action, I also had a special encounter. Time flew by, and 3 years after Tyler broke up with me, I received a call from my sister. She was getting married to Tyler.
We're getting married. I'll be expecting a wedding gift of $10,000.
It was going to be a garden wedding. She was gloating as usual. After all, she was marrying my ex-fiancé. The perfect ingredient to torment me and make me miserable. I could easily imagine her spiteful smile, much to my disgust. What a terrible woman. It's just too painful to know that I'm related to someone like her by blood. But 3 years can change a person and their destiny. To me now, my sister is no longer an enemy. Her gloating is just ridiculous. I won't let her have her way anymore. I responded as brightly as I could. Sure, I'll go with my husband, the CEO whose company makes $300 million a year. I could picture my sister's confused face. Before she could ask any detailed questions, I ended the call. The wedding day would surely be filled with tears. Tears of regret, not joy. On the day of my sister's wedding, I revealed that I was already married. Not just my sister, but also my parents and other relatives were surprised.
Why didn't you tell your family something so important?
I didn't want to. You weren't the kind of family I felt like contacting. That's the only reason. Everyone was stunned by my blunt response. I felt a sense of satisfaction. Then I called my husband, who was waiting at the edge of the garden. Walking towards me was a tall man with a commanding presence, the very image of a businessman. My husband, James, had turned a near-bankrupt local factory into a global enterprise. He had expanded into many areas, and now the group's annual sales were up to $300 million. James, having achieved great business success, exuded the aura of a victor. He overwhelmed my relatives present there.
Nice to meet you all. I am James, Emily's partner. I apologize for the late introduction. Congratulations on your wedding, Lisi.
What do you mean, congratulations? How dare you marry someone's sister behind their back? Isn't it common sense to ask for her hand properly?
Of course, I intended to do so, but Emily stopped me. I understood why after she explained. Lisi, you're truly despicable.
What do you mean despicable? What are you talking about?
From childhood, you tormented Emily, and even as teenagers and adults, you stole her boyfriends and flaunted marrying them. Isn't such behavior despicable?
Lisa, looking up at the towering James, was at a loss for words, as everything he said was true. The wedding guests started murmuring, turning their attention to the bride's dark side being exposed. James didn't stop, encouraged by my gesture to continue.
And it's the same with you, the parents always siding with Lisa and neglecting Emily, and the relatives too. Don't you know the meaning of fairness? Looking back, isn't it natural for Emily to disown you?
No one could respond. My parents hung their heads like scolded children. Despite being much older than James, then Tyler, the man who was my fiancé until 3 years ago, approached. Having been seduced by Lisa to leave me, an elite banker. When he realized James was speaking, Tyler started to grovel.
James, what brings you here? Today is my wedding.
Hey Tyler, I know, congratulations. Your wife told mine to bring a $10,000 wedding gift. I wanted to see what kind of woman would say such a thing.
What, Lisa, you did? And wife, James's wife, could it be?
Tyler looked back and forth between me and James, bewildered. When I nodded in affirmation, Tyler's mouth hung open in shock. So Tyler, James, a top executive of a major corporation, was someone he could not afford to displease. Discovering that the woman he discarded had married such an influential person naturally threw him off balance. James, on my behalf, continued to sternly address Tyler, who was visibly flustered.
We always appreciate the services of your bank, and you've had your share of troubles dealing with us. But Tyler, it's pretty low of you, isn't it?
Low, you say?
You were engaged to Emily, right? Yet you chose her sister over her. Didn't you feel any remorse towards Emily? And to invite her to your wedding, that's in poor taste, to say the least. I never thought you were that kind of person.
No, it's not like that. I was against inviting Emily, but...
Save your excuses. I don't want to entrust our group's finances to a bank that employs such unprincipled people. I'm considering changing our main bank. Tell that to your president from me.
Please, not that. I can't make such a report.
Tyler was prostrating before James, begging for forgiveness. A pitiful sight for one of the day's main characters. Seeing her partner in such a state, my sister trembled. Not enough. This won't settle it. I didn't let up. Wait, James. In a way, Tyler is also a victim. The real culprit is my sister, right, Tyler? You felt sorry for me and suggested not inviting me to the wedding, but she insisted. Isn't that right?
Yes, exactly. Lisa went ahead with her plans, saying she wanted to harass Emily to the end. I tried to stop her. It was terrible.
Tyler, how can you say that? You're making me out to be the villain.
I'm just stating the facts. You had such a malicious look on your face back then.
Just as I intended, the newly vowed couple started to bicker in the chapel. I raised my voice so the surrounding relatives could hear. That's her true nature. Since we were kids, she's been mean to me, spouting abusive words and stealing my boyfriends. Yet, she was adored by everyone around her. I continued exposing the harsh truth about my sister, her two-faced nature. How she commanded me not to speak to her in public, her overt disdain, her theft and misuse of my belongings, and how she even sold some of them. I didn't want to recall it, but I recounted how she stole my first boyfriend in high school. The day after flaunting a relationship with that boyfriend, she dumped him. She was done harassing me, so he was no longer of use to her. Be careful, Tyler, not to meet the same fate.
It's not like that. There was another reason we broke up. I can't remember right now, but it wasn't because the harassment was over.
My sister frantically tried to defend herself, but no one believed her. The atmosphere was telling. I could also tell from everyone's expressions. They were appalled. The garden wedding had turned into an away game for the bride. Right? You can't just dump Tyler. Marrying an elite banker isn't something anyone can easily do. I was devastated 3 years ago. Do you understand how it feels to have your fiancé stolen, sister? Probably not.
It's your fault for being slow-witted.
Really? I don't think so. It's much worse to secretly approach and steal your sister's fiancé. Oh, I get it. You don't realize you're doing something wrong. That's why you can do such things so easily.
Emily, enough already.
Who should be saying enough? Stop messing up people's lives. I've done my research, you know. Sister, you were always chasing after other people's men in college, garnering plenty of resentment, right? My sister stepped back, unnerved. She was scared, not knowing how much I knew. I was aware of almost everything about her college life, which is just as I touched upon a moment ago. How she repeatedly seduced and stole other women's boyfriends, earning nicknames like Crusher or Maneater. The dark side of a beautiful, academically successful college student. It reveals her hidden nature. Such a dishonorable reputation. You stole people's boyfriends to affirm your own attractiveness, right? You wanted to bask in a sense of superiority and then discarded them quickly. What you did was despicable, wrong, and shameful. As your sister, I'm embarrassed.
Stop. Don't make things up.
Making things up. You're the one lying. I told you, I've done thorough research. I met with each victim personally and heard their stories. Remember Ashley, Monica, Yolanda, Heather, Rachel, and Rose? They all had their boyfriends stolen by you, and they still resent you to this day. When I named these specific individuals, my sister's complexion changed. She realized her excuses were futile, having been relentlessly counted by the sister she always looked down upon. Now she was utterly deflated. Neither our parents, relatives, nor the wedding staff could stop me. Even if they tried, James intervened. Feeling it was time, I decided to deliver the final blow to my devastated sister. By the way, how did you find out about my engagement with Tyler 3 years ago? I didn't tell anyone. As James mentioned earlier, I despised everyone, so I had no intention of sharing even after getting married. Tyler and his parents understood that.
Well, someone told me.
Who was it? When I was in high school, it was our parents who informed you about my boyfriend, right? You interfered, saying I was too presumptuous. But it's different now. I haven't told anyone in our family. No one I met after starting work had any connection to my sister. Yet, she knew about my engagement with Tyler and meddled. Who told you? Who enabled this? I pressed on.
I don't know. I can remember. Does it matter right now?
It matters a lot. Lisa, lying only makes things worse. Just be honest. No one informed you about me and Tyler, right? So how did you find out?
What? What are you trying to say?
I turned my smartphone screen toward my sister for everyone to see. Displayed was an image of her and a scene of her entering my room without permission. She turned pale and froze in shock. Surprised, I thoroughly investigated how my relationship with Tyler back then came to light. I considered all possibilities and found it. Lisa, you planted a bug in my room. That's why you knew everything.
Bugging? No way. Lisa, did you bug your own sister?
Her breathing became erratic, and she began shaking her head in denial. She seemed to have an expression that didn't want to admit anything. It's no lie. You would do anything to outdo me and make me miserable. You probably took the key to my room without permission when I visited home once for a gathering. That's why you could come and go as you pleased. I suspect she also found my current address from items I had during that visit. She must have acted while I was in the bathroom or away. Using the information and duplicate key, she later installed the bug in my residence. The bug is still there with your fingerprints, I bet.
That's a lie. All a fabrication.
But how else can you explain having a key to my room? You've been entering my house, right? Were you there to replace the bug? Didn't you notice the camera?
Under current law, bugging itself may not be criminal, but illegal entry is. Are you prepared for the consequences, Lisa?
But I'm the older sister. What's wrong with entering my sister's room?
Who had said she couldn't accept such an imperfect sister? Whether you're siblings or not, entering someone's room with a stolen key is a crime. I'll have James's lawyer friend help, and we'll formally charge you. I will make her admit her guilt through a trial or whatever it takes. Then I will make her apologize until she's thoroughly remorseful. That's the extent of my revenge. For now, it's still ongoing. The venue fell silent. The sky seemed empty. My sister sat down and began to cry. Instead of comforting her, Tyler looked down and said,
Sorry, can we pretend this marriage never happened?
What? What are you talking about? Stop saying weird things.
What's weird about it? It's only natural to want a divorce. I knew you could be scary, but I never imagined you were this despicable. I want a divorce.
No way. I will never agree to a divorce.
James, Emily, I'm truly sorry for all the trouble. I will end my relationship with this woman, so please continue to support our company as before.
No way. Unbelievable. Traitor.
My sister, unable to bear it, began crying and tried to lash out at Tyler, but our parents held her back. There was nothing about my sister to sympathize with. Her faults were clear to anyone listening to our exchange. Her tear-streaked face was grotesquely distorted, almost worth capturing in a photo. Whatever happened to the wedding, I no longer cared. James and I left the scene. Later, James received a call from Tyler, who managed to finalize the divorce for my sister. From Tyler's tone, I could picture my sister's pitiful state.
She begged me not to leave her, saying she'd do anything, crying and pleading. It was quite a scene.
Tyler recounted, trying desperately to regain our favor. He spoke harshly of my sister, forcing her into agreeing to the divorce. She had brought it upon herself. Frankly, afterward, I sued my sister for trespassing and sought damages for emotional distress. She had worked at a trading company, but the bugging and divorce scandal became known at her workplace, making her position untenable. She resigned, citing personal reasons, and returned to live a slovenly life at our parents' home, according to them. Prompted by relatives, my parents apologized for their past behavior, regretting their preferential treatment of my sister and neglect of me. Like Tyler, they mockingly shared details of my sister's current miserable state. She couldn't adjust to a lower standard of living, wasting money despite being jobless, rapidly depleting her savings, and resorting to begging our parents for money. Her appearance also suffered. Stress eating caused her to gain weight rapidly, erasing any traces of her former beauty. Now a neglected woman in her 40s, she does nothing but complain. If she has the energy to complain about others, there's no need to worry about her. I advised my parents over the phone not to pamper her too much. It would be better for her to work and face herself, for her own sake, realizing her foolish actions. My parents suggested I visit with James, but I politely declined. A couple of apologies won't make amends. I won't set foot in my hometown again. Even as my parents age, they will realize the extent of their mistreatment. They can spend their twilight years regretting and reflecting with their unworthy eldest daughter. Then, I ended the call. I now feel content in my life with James, feeling cherished in a happy marriage. 3 years ago, consumed by hatred, I hired a private investigator to monitor my sister's actions. By chance, James, the company's advisor, was there and sympathized greatly with me. As they say, when one god abandons you, another will pick you up. Life is truly unpredictable. Recently, I discovered I'm pregnant with a boy. Much to James's excitement about having an heir. Since standing my ground at the wedding, my life has been on an upswing, with James continually expanding his business. Both of us are on the rise, it seems. After enduring so much unpleasantness, we aim to be happier than anyone else from now on. For that reason, I'm committed to staying as positive as possible.
My trip to Guam with your husband is great fun. What would you like as your souvenir?
I could picture my sister's smug face as if she was on a cheating trip. But I calmly replied without getting angry. My niece's funeral is going on right now. Besides, my husband is right here.
What did you say?
What my sister saw when she turned pale at my words and literally flew back. My name is Sophia. I'm a 29-year-old part-time housewife. I have only recently become a housewife. The truth is, I just got married a few days ago. Ralphie, who became my husband, is a colleague from work, and as we worked together, we developed a good relationship and finally tied the knot. That said, being workaholics, we considered weddings a waste of time and didn't bother with a ceremony, we just filed the paperwork. Someday I will wear a wedding dress for a photo shoot, but now is not the right time for that during the busy season. As for why we got married during such a busy period, well, it was simply a matter of timing. We're busy now, but the season ahead will be even busier, and procrastinating on getting married wouldn't be efficient, we figured. I guess you could call it a simple marriage. No way. That's not the case at all. We've made it a rule never to mix work and personal life. While we're at work, we're both total workaholics, but once we're home, we switch gears completely. At home, we're just a sweet newlywed couple. Even though we didn't have a ceremony, we went to each other's parents' homes to pay our respects. Neither set of parents had any problem with us not having a ceremony, they accepted it as modern. We sent out greeting cards to relatives, and that was that. So, our marriage proceeded smoothly and uneventfully. Except for one problem. That problem is my sister, Emma. She's already married now, but she used to be man-eater. Well, at least in my mind she was. Moreover, my sister has a habit of taking things from others. In general society, when it comes to siblings, the basic rule is you're the older sister, so you should give way to your younger sister, right? Well, that's an old-fashioned way of thinking, and our parents never said anything like that. But instead of dismissing it as an old-fashioned notion, my sister twisted it around to the opposite idea. My younger sister's things are mine. What do I mean? She stole my boyfriend. My very first boyfriend when I was in 8th grade.
Oh, he's cute.
From me, who was having a cute puppy love-like romance at the time due to my age, my sister stole my boyfriend. I just turned 14 and my 19-year-old sister took my boyfriend. It's unbelievable, but it's believable when it comes to my sister. And once my ex-boyfriend became infatuated with my sister, she dumped him. In other words, my sister just enjoys the game of taking things away from me. Heartbroken, I couldn't get another boyfriend for a while, but I finally got one as a senior in high school. However, I was busy right before graduating from high school, so he comforted my heart. But, as fate would have it, my sister, a working adult, came home while my boyfriend and I were studying together at home.
Oh, he's cute.
She said the same line I'd heard somewhere before, and once again, she stole my boyfriend. Why am I so easily taken from? My sister and I don't look alike. I take after my father, who has an average face. On the other hand, my sister inherited the stunningly beautiful face of our grandmother, who was even more beautiful than our mother, through a throwback gene. I hate to admit it, but my sister is truly beautiful. Also, she has a shapely figure without exercise or restricting her diet. On the other hand, I can't lose weight no matter how hard I try to diet. And teenagers, well, they're just going to choose based on looks anyway. So, when it comes to a beautiful older sister, I don't stand a chance, do I? After experiencing 2 heartbreaks at the hands of my sister, I decided to attend a university far away. Living alone while studying and working part-time, I started working afterward. I never returned to my hometown. Because I didn't know what my sister might do if I did. Even my sister, who is now married and a mother of one. As expected, She wouldn't do anything to my husband, but I was careful of her. People don't change that easily, I think. When I went to visit my parents, my sister wasn't there. I sent a wedding announcement, but got no response. I have a bad feeling about this. As I muttered that, my husband, who knows everything, just laughed it off.
Well, it should be fine. You're apart, and you hardly ever meet, right?
He's laughing now, but would he still be laughing if he met my sister? Even my ex-boyfriends used to say, it's okay, but it definitely wasn't when they were actually approached by my sister. Still, Ralphie is a 30-year-old grown man. I can't imagine him being swayed by just a pretty face. At least, I want to believe that. It's not that I don't trust my husband, but it's just that it's my sister.
You used to date such lame guys.
She laughs while snatching her sister's boyfriends, and once she snatches them, she easily discards them and laughs. I couldn't trust my sister more than my husband. Then one day, I got a call from my sister. I didn't want to answer, but ignoring it would be immature, so I picked up the phone.
Long time no see. Congratulations on getting married.
That's my sister's first words to her sister in a while. I regretted answering after all.
But still, it's a late marriage, isn't it? I got married at 27, you know.
She's only 2 years older than my marriage age, but she's taking the high ground.
My 5-year-old daughter is said to be a gifted child in kindergarten. She's beautiful like me. I'm glad she doesn't look like her auntie.
And then she's trying to put me down. Her aunt, you mean me. After babbling about her own happiness, she finally got to the point.
What's your husband like?
I thought this question would come. So I'll just say something vague. He's a normal guy.
How about his income?
About half of what your husband makes, I guess.
What does he look like?
I told you, he's just average. A plain guy who matches me. Sorry, Ralphie. You're the coolest husband in my eyes, but I have to say this to my sister. I apologize to my husband in my mind.
Sounds plain indeed.
That's why I said he's normal.
What does he do?
He works at the same company as me.
What? Is it an affair with your boss that led to a shotgun marriage?
Are you kidding me? We're both marrying for the first time after dating normally. What a wild imagination. I'm furious, but my sister on the other end of the phone is laughing hysterically.
Well, that's so like you. Anyway, I hope you two are happy. I hope your marriage lasts long.
She said so and hung up. Her way of saying things made me angry all day. Then a few days later, something unbelievable happened.
Hey, Sophia, want to have lunch outside today?
My coworker and friend, Sarah, asked. I agreed, and as I stepped out of the lobby to go outside.
Oh, Sophia, there you are. I was just about to call you at the reception. Perfect timing.
I turned around to see who called my name, and I frowned and made a strange noise. Because my sister came running towards me. Why is my sister, who lives 2 hours away by train, here? What's up, sis? What are you doing here?
I just came on a little trip.
She's saying it like she just happened to come here for shopping. Who takes a trip just for that? And this place isn't even a tourist spot or anything. My sister looks around suspiciously while making excuses and scanning the area.
Looks like quite a nice company.
I have a bad feeling about this. Please, dear husband, don't show up. Just as I'm thinking that, I get called out.
Sophia.
Turning around, I see several coworkers standing there. Of course, my husband is among them.
Lunch break.
Well, yeah, sure.
Oh, who's there?
Nice to meet you. I'm Sophia's sister. Thank you for always taking care of her.
Saying this, my sister shook hands with him without listening to my stillness.
Nice to meet you too.
Oh my God, how handsome he is.
My sister exclaimed while shaking hands.
Sophia, seriously, what's so ordinary about him?
What?
He's more handsome than my husband. I'm glad to meet him.
My sister starting to wriggle her body. I think she's turned on.
If you ever have any trouble with my sister, don't hesitate to contact me.
With that, my sister handed him a note with her contact information and left. Why did she even bother preparing that?
See you.
Leaving us dumbfounded, my sister walked away.
Well, your sister is unique.
One of the coworkers present commented. All I could do was give a wry smile. After a while, I suddenly received a call from my sister again. I wanted to ignore it, but she kept calling and calling, so I reluctantly called back.
I'm going to Guam next time, so I've decided to leave my daughter at our parents' house during that time. Take care of her if anything happens.
Huh? It's quite far from our place to our parents' house.
Our parents are getting old and don't have the energy anymore. It's okay since it includes a holiday.
Whether it's okay or not is up to the receiver to decide, not the one making the request. Going to Guam with your husband? I understand needing for holidays sometimes. As I was talking, I heard a male voice saying, "Who are you talking to?" from behind my sister. Oh, your husband has the day off today? Today is a weekday, and I called my sister back during my work break. My sister is a housewife, but her husband is a regular company employee. Wasn't he supposed to be working on weekdays?
Just a minute, I'm talking to my sister.
Oh, Sophia.
Wait a second. I raised my voice at that.
What's wrong?
My sister replied. Who are you talking to right now? Could it be?
It's your husband, who I happened to run into. We're siblings by marriage, so don't worry about it.
What are you saying?
Well, see you later.
Ignoring my voice, my sister hung up the phone. Unbelievable. My exclamation echoed in the break room. After a while, I heard that my niece had been dropped off at my parents' house. My sister told our parents that she was going on a trip to Guam with a friend. Apparently, it was a trip planned around her husband's long business trip, so my niece was left with our parents. Going on a cheating trip is just unbelievable.
What did you say?
My mother tilted her head at my muttered comment, but I shook it off as nothing. While I was irritated with my sister, my niece was innocent. So, on this holiday, I came to take care of my adorable niece at my parents' house.
Andy, Sophia, look, isn't it cute?
You've drawn it very cute. My niece, Mia, innocently showed me a picture of her beloved hamster. As I praised her and stroked her head, she smiled happily. My niece was very cute, and she would surely grow up to be beautiful in the future. I clenched my fist, determined to protect her pure heart so she wouldn't become like my sister. But then, the situation took a sudden turn.
You are...
Soon after, I heard my niece scream, and the house erupted into chaos. While I was staying at my parents' house, I was moving around. Just as I was busy, I received a call from my sister. Thinking she might be worried about her daughter, I reluctantly picked up, but her carefree voice made me want to hang up immediately.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm busy right now, what's up?
Oh, Guam is just so amazing.
That's great. Gotta go.
Bye.
Wait, guess who's next to me right now?
A friend?
Yes, exactly. So, what's your husband up to?
Ralphie? What about him?
He's not there, right? He's away on business trip, isn't he? Well, I guess so, huh?
Irritated by my sister's suggestive tone, I took a deep breath and decided to be patient. What's going on?
Hey, are you on the phone with someone again?
Suddenly, I heard another male voice on the line. And my sister laughed in response.
Come on, wait a sec, Ralph. Oops. Did you hear that?
She's definitely doing this on purpose. I didn't hear anything. I replied to avoid further engagement.
Oh, really? That's a shame. Oh well, you heard it, but you're pretending you didn't, right? Sorry, I'm just too happy.
You know what? I'm really busy right now. Can I talk later?
Don't say that, it'll be over soon. So, about my trip to Guam with your husband. It's just fantastic.
He's being so straightforward, this jerk. But my heart remained calm. I was very composed in that regard. Perhaps because she couldn't see my face and thought I was flustered and silent, my sister continued without waiting for my response.
So, I'll bring back souvenirs for you. The person who is coming with me will bring it back, so please take it.
She didn't even bother hiding it anymore, and I couldn't help but feel exasperated.
Oh, by the way, what kind of souvenirs do you want? Something sweet.
Look, I can't deal with this anymore. Right now, we're in the middle of Mia's funeral.
What did you say?
My words were met with a delayed response. Didn't you hear? Your daughter. Mia, she's in the middle of a funeral.
No. What are you saying? Stop joking.
I don't joke about matters of life and death. Besides, taking a breath, I looked up at the person standing beside me. My husband is right here.
Wait, what does that mean?
I could hear my sister's anxious voice on the other end of the phone, but I ignored it and hung up. The one who chuckled at my snorting irritation was unmistakably my husband, Ralphie. Several hours later,
Mia.
There was a person who jumped into the house shouting loudly. Of course, it was my sister. It seems she's a mother too, after all. She must have hopped on a plane and flown back immediately. A panicked sister entered the living room where we were relaxing.
What's the deal with Mia's funeral?
Right after she shouted as she came in, my sister's eyes widened in surprise.
What?
A childish voice called out to her.
Mommy?
Mia. Wait, what's going on? A funeral means.
Tears welled up in my niece's eyes at my sister's words. Oh no. She had finally stopped crying just now. She must have remembered and started feeling sad again.
Mommy, my hamster. He...
Saying so, my niece pointed to the empty hamster cage, then handed a small box to my sister. It was an urn containing the bones of hamster.
No way. What does this mean?
When my sister looked at me for an explanation, Mia's beloved hamster passed away suddenly yesterday. He was quite old, so it couldn't be helped.
But you just said Mia's funeral.
Oh, that. I meant Mia's beloved hamster's funeral, but didn't it come across?
How could it possibly come across?
My sister's scream echoed through the house. Ignoring that, I turned my gaze to the person who came with my sister. So, is he with you? As I indicated the man, my sister, who seemed to have lost her composure as she collapsed to the floor, retorted in frustration.
What are you saying? He's your husband, isn't he?
Why does she have to get so angry? As I said before, my husband is right here.
You seriously, cut it out.
Glaring at me with anger, my sister finally noticed and turned her gaze to the man sitting next to me.
Who's that? The ridiculously ordinary-looking guy.
How rude. He's Ralphie, my husband.
Seriously.
My husband smiled wryly at my sister, who rolled her eyes.
Nice to meet you. I'm Sophia's husband.
Then who's the Ralph over there?
He's another person with the same name, Ralphie.
Oh no.
Yes, the person standing next to my sister. He happened to be named Ralphie as well. And both my husband and I knew that person very well.
But you said that guy at the office was your husband.
I didn't say that. That Ralph is a friend from high school who coincidentally joined the same company. We got close because of having the same name, and then my friend Ralph introduced me to the Ralphie who would become my husband, and we started dating and got married.
I don't get it. What's up with that?
I don't get it either. You suddenly showed up at the office, then gave your phone number to my friend Ralph without acknowledging my husband Ralphie. And that Ralph, he also greeted you. He's always been a ladies' man. Everyone was astonished. My sister was speechless at my words. Yes, on that day, the day my sister stormed into the office. The guy we bumped into while about to go for lunch, along with my friend Ralph, was none other than my husband Ralphie and several other male coworkers. It seems like my sister only has eyes for handsome guys. She got fixated on my friend Ralph, completely ignoring my plain and easy-to-miss husband.
Because he greeted me.
We've known each other since high school. Ralph naturally greeted you when he found out you were my sister.
Is that so?
Yes, it doesn't mean much. With a smile, my sister now glared at my friend Ralph.
And why didn't you correct her? Remember when I asked you why you married such a plain woman?
Well, I didn't deny it, but I didn't confirm it either. I just said Emma was more attractive than Sophia.
Ralph spoke truthfully in spite of my presence. My sister, blushing and turning pale, is flustered.
Ralph, you're at fault too. Why are you getting involved with a married woman?
My husband said somewhat angrily. But Ralph shrugged his shoulders somewhat helplessly.
Well, she said she was divorced, and she asked me out officially. I was just intending to play around though.
What did you say?
My sister turned red again at Ralph's words.
What's that supposed to mean? You were just playing with me.
Suddenly there was a male voice.
So were you serious?
Well, of course. I even got divorced. Wait, huh?
My sister slowly turned her eyes to the door behind. And her eyes widened dramatically.
Why are you here? Aren't you on a business trip?
My client couldn't make it, so it's ended early. I was surprised when I got home and there was no one there. Then Sophia called to tell me you were here. When did you divorce me?
That's dumb. No, divorce was just a joke.
My sister was dumbfounded. Above her, still collapsed on the floor, came the voice of my friend Ralph.
Hey, what's the deal? You're not divorced, so that means you were just playing around with me too, right? You're in no position to blame me. Ridiculous.
What did you say?
I don't need a woman who lies about something as important as divorce.
My friend Ralph said so and apologized to my sister's husband.
I'm terribly sorry for not knowing. Although it doesn't seem like something money can fix, I'll pay compensation as an apology.
Saying that, Ralph handed over his business card and left.
Wait, Ralph, I'm serious about you.
Oh, really?
My sister's attempt to follow was met with her husband's cold voice. When she came to herself, she saw her husband with cold eyes.
Wait, what I said was just a little joke.
I'm tired of your lies.
What?
You lied about taking care of Mia during my business trip and going out with your friend. You lied about divorcing me.
Well, that's good.
But it's also pitiful that you've become a liar.
What are you talking about?
My sister's husband nodded as if to understand something.
So, let's get divorced. That way, what you said won't be a lie anymore.
Wait.
Well, it's not technically we're divorced, but we're going to divorce from now on. That's acceptable, right?
Wait a minute.
Of course, I'll sue for damages, and I'll have custody. I'll be the one raising Mia, and I'll make sure to get child support too.
Well, hold on.
No holding on. From now on, we'll communicate through lawyers. Mia, let's go home.
Saying this, my sister's husband held out his hand to my niece. My niece looked puzzled.
Are we going home?
Yeah, we are.
My sister's husband nodded.
Wait a minute. Are you trying to take the mother away from her?
My sister yelled, thinking she could somehow manage by using her child as a shield. Her husband took a moment to think about it. Then, he glanced at Mia.
Mia, do you feel lonely without mom?
No, I'm not lonely.
Mia replied immediately.
What? Hold on, Mia, you're okay without your mom.
My sister looked at Mia in disbelief.
But Mom, you're never at home on days when Dad isn't around. You always go out to play, leave me watching TV, and come home late at night. Dinner is always a cold.
Emma, did you neglect your parenting?
It's all new to him. The angry her husband glared at my sister.
What? It's your fault for pushing child care onto me, isn't it?
You want to take good care of your child, so you become a stay-at-home mom. Besides, I took care of Mia on the weekend. I thought you were tired. Did you cheat on me?
Well, that's
enough. I'll talk to the lawyer about what's next after getting a full account from your cheating partner earlier.
Wait a minute, you.
I don't care. Mia, let's go.
Okay, bye, Mom.
Trying to reach out, my sister's hand was easily dismissed by her daughter, who said, "Goodbye," without hesitation. The door slammed in front of my disappointed sister. Afterward, following discussions, my sister and her husband got divorced. Apparently, my sister had been cheating not only with my friend Ralph, but also with others, leading to a divorce entirely on her fault. Even when she came to my company, claiming it was a trip, it turned out to be an affair trip. My friend Ralph apparently paid compensation to my sister's husband. Then he apologized and quit the company. I thought he didn't have to go that far, but he said it was a matter of a man's pride. I hope this incident will be a wake-up call for him, who has always been popular with women, to start a sincere relationship.
Until you pay off your debts, don't come back.
My sister was kicked out of my parents' house. As a stay-at-home mom, she couldn't pay compensation or child support, so my parents had to cover for her. Well, my parents probably didn't expect to get their money back, but they did it because they wanted to see their granddaughter, Mia. With nowhere to go after the divorce and unable to return to her parents' house, my sister contacted me.
I thought it was strange, you marrying such a handsome guy.
Don't ever contact me again, I said and hung up the phone.
Sorry. It was my fault. I won't take your man anymore.
She called repeatedly in a panic, so I hung up silently and blocked her calls. I don't know what happened to my sister after being abandoned by both parents and me.
I saw someone who looked like Emma, but she was completely different, completely drained, and not a trace of her former beauty.
A neighbor who knew my sister said, but I don't care. I'm not sure if it was really my sister, but I probably won't ever see her again. I'm exhausted.
You went through a lot.
As I rubbed my shoulders, my husband Ralphie handed me warm milk with a wry smile. "Thank you," I said, looking at my husband.
What's with that look? You're making me blush.
"Oh, no, I was just thinking you're such a great guy."
Only Sophia would say that.
"Well, I'm glad. I'm the only one who knows how attractive you are." Saying that, I smiled, and my husband hugged me back.
My wallet was in your bag, you thief.
My SIL, Susan shouted at me, rummaging through her bag with a glare. This happened during a dinner party at my fiancé's family home, celebrating the setting of our wedding date. Among the attendees, including both our families, was Susan, whom I find difficult to deal with. Ever since a greeting visit to announce our engagement, she had taken a particular interest in me. Since then, she frequently invited me to meals, often saying, "I'm a bit short on cash today, can you cover for me?" Or "I forgot my wallet, lend me some money," without ever paying for her meals. Moreover, she hasn't paid me back for any of the money I covered for her. Initially, I wanted to get along with her, but my distrust grew day by day, and I've been avoiding her as much as possible. Being accused of theft in front of my fiancé and relatives, I was in shock. The wallet she held was indeed hers, but I swear I didn't steal it. Susan, please, calm down.
What? You're going to make excuses now? I'll make sure to demand compensation for this theft.
She ranted, not letting me get a word in. Watching her, I couldn't help but let out a laugh. And soon the rest of the family started laughing too, leaving her dumbfounded.
What's so funny?
She demanded, turning red with anger. I decided to tell her the truth. I can't help but laugh at such an accusation, Susan. My name is Emily. I'm a 28-year-old office worker. I just got engaged to someone I've been dating. My fiancé, David, is a 30-year-old man, my superior at work. David has been supportive since I joined the company, listening sincerely to both work and personal matters, making him a trusted boss from the start. As we spent more time together, we started sharing more about our personal lives, developing mutual affection. Our similar ages and common interests also played a part. After a few years of dating, we decided to announce our engagement to our parents. Visiting my home first, my parents and sister warmly congratulated us. My sister, Sarah, is 7 years my senior. She's already married and has 2 children. She lives nearby and works from home as a translator. She finished her work early today to meet us.
"Congratulations, Emily. David, please take good care of my sister,"
Sarah said, smiling to David. She has always adored me since we were kids, and I love my wise and kind sister. On our way home, David complimented my sister, making me happy as if it were about me. "You have a sister too, right, David? I'm looking forward to meeting her." I said so. David seemed troubled. "I'm glad you think so, but my sister can be quite selfish and vain. I'm worried she might trouble you," he admitted reluctantly. It seemed he was hesitant for me to meet her. Nevertheless, I wanted to get along with my future SIL. Little did I know she would become a source of concern for me. When we visited David's family home later, his parents welcomed us warmly.
"It's been a while, Emily. Nice of you to come."
His mother, Anna, greeted me in a laid-back tone, and his father, Tom, smiled kindly. Although I had only spoken to David's parents at their doorstep before, our relationship was good. However, this was my first time entering their house, and I was nervous about announcing our marriage and meeting his sister for the first time. It turned out she was not home, which disappointed me but seemed to relieve David. Maybe he really didn't want me to meet his sister. Despite keeping his sister in mind, the conversation with his kind parents went smoothly, and I felt relaxed and enjoyed our time. David's parents were genuinely happy about our marriage, and feeling reassured, we began to leave. As we were putting on our shoes at the entrance, the front door suddenly opened, and a woman walked in, saying, "Hi there." Seeing her, David let out a
Well, David, what? You're leaving already? I just got home. Stick around for a bit,
said the woman blocking the door, appearing to be in her mid-30s, around the same age as my sister. However, she seemed more assertive and was wearing heavier makeup than my sister. I immediately realized this was David's sister, Susan. According to David, she's divorced with no children. Nice to meet you. I'm Emily, and I've been in a relationship with David. We're here to announce our engagement. When I greeted my SIL, all I got back was a nonchalant hum. When I looked at her, she was sizing me up with a judgmental gaze. Then, with a smirk, she asked, "So, Emily, how did you meet David?"
Hey, Susan. This is the first time Emily's meeting you. Don't start with such questions.
David interjected, visibly annoyed. But Susan kept on firing questions at me without paying him any mind, asking about my salary, noting my nice clothes and assuming I must be wealthy, and inquiring if I worked at the same company as David. Well, overwhelmed by her barrage of questions, I was at a loss for words when David stepped in to chide his sister.
Enough already. Can't you see Emily's uncomfortable? We're leaving, so please move aside.
David managed to pull me away from his sister, who glared at him as if he was getting in her way.
What's the big deal? If you guys are getting married, she'll be my SIL, so I thought it'd be nice to chat a bit. Oh, right, Emily, let's exchange contact information,
she said, pulling out her smartphone from her purse. I was hesitant but eventually gave in, wondering if this was really the right decision. "Susan, don't bother Emily too much." Even Anna warned her. Susan seemed bothered and went inside the house. I finally understood why David looked so gloomy when we were talking about Susan before. Unlike her brother, Susan was pushy and didn't listen to others. A complete opposite of my own sister. I was anxious about getting along with her, but still wanted to keep a good relationship with my future family, so I resolved to reply diligently to any messages from her. After we exchanged numbers, Susan started sending me emails frequently. Through our exchanges, we found out we worked close to each other and she invited me to lunch during our work break one day. I agreed, seeing no reason to decline. But when it came time to pay, Susan suddenly exclaimed, "Oh, what's wrong?"
Sorry, Emily, I'm a bit short on cash right now. Could you cover for me and I'll pay you back later?
She asked, without a hint of embarrassment. I was puzzled by her behavior but decided to pay for the lunch, thinking it was just this once. However, on another day, oh dear, I forgot my wallet. "Emily, could you pay for me?" Susan began inviting me to lunch frequently, always finding an excuse to have me pay for her share. And whenever I asked for reimbursement, she'd brush it off saying, "It's not a lot of money for lunch, right? Don't sweat the small stuff," refusing to take me seriously. The cost of a single lunch wasn't much, but as these invitations became more frequent, the financial burden on me grew. Months passed without Susan returning any of the money I'd covered for her, and my distress towards her only intensified. I realized it was best to minimize my interactions with her, and my desire to get along with her faded. Lately, I've been declining her lunch invitations and keeping my replies to her emails to the minimum. However, one day after work, as David and I were leaving the office together, I heard a familiar voice call my name. Turning around, I saw Susan waiting for us. "Look at you two, leaving work together like a happy couple," she said sarcastically, making David frown.
What do you want, Susan?
David asked, to which Susan replied with a bright smile. "Actually, I have plans for dinner with friends today, but I'm a bit short on money. Emily, could you lend me some?" I was frustrated by her audacity, having already lent her money before. "I'm sorry, but I have to decline. You haven't even paid back the money I lent you previously." I firmly refused, only for Susan to become upset, saying, "How cold can you be? We're family, aren't we? It's just a little money between families. Besides, you earn more than me," shamelessly justifying herself. I hadn't mentioned my salary to her, but she must have detected it since I worked at the same company as David. I wanted to argue that I wasn't part of her family yet, but David spoke up before I could, scolding his sister.
Family or not, you shouldn't borrow money like this. Instead of going out for dinner, you should pay back what you owe to Emily. If you can't repay her now, please go home.
David, who do you think you're talking to like that? I'm your sister. Are you really siding with someone else over your own blood?
She switched from calling me family to a stranger, glaring at me as if I was the problem. She even started spouting some nonsensical theory, saying, "You know, in today's world, women need to have their own money too. Do you understand, Emily? Saying you can't lend me money is like admitting you're broke." David seemed too exasperated to even get angry.
What you're saying is complete nonsense. Emily, let's just go. You don't have to take her words seriously.
Without the heart to say anything more to Susan, we decided to pretend she was a stranger and left the scene. People from the office who were leaving kept glancing our way, making us the center of attention.
What? Hey, wait a minute.
Although Susan shouted from behind, we did not look back. After that, I occasionally received messages from her, but I was too busy with wedding preparations to do anything but send non-committal replies. Of course, I declined any invitations to meals, and since the incident of being ambushed in front of the company, I haven't met her. Amidst all this, the wedding date was successfully set, and a dinner party with both families was arranged. At my in-laws' house, David and I arrived at his family home shortly before my parents and sister. Susan was there too, but she surprisingly kept quiet and behaved herself, which felt eerie amidst the lavish dinner and celebratory mood. The dinner ended on a pleasant note, with everyone enjoying light-hearted conversations. When suddenly, after returning from the restroom, Susan started screaming, "What? It's gone! Where's my wallet?" Claiming the wallet she had put in her bag was missing.
Calm down. Did you leave it in your room by any chance?
Anna tried to soothe her, but it was as if she wasn't listening. "I definitely put it in my bag." "Oh, I see, you stole it," she accused me, grabbing a purse near me and rummaging through it. Then, with a look of surprise, she pulled out a wallet from the purse. Her own wallet that I had seen several times before.
Look, Just as I said, my wallet was in your purse.
She exclaimed triumphantly and then started accusing me again.
You stole it while I was in the restroom, didn't you? Pretending to be all innocent and then pulling something like this. I'm totally against someone like you marrying my brother.
Susan, please, calm down.
Planning to make excuses. What you did is theft. I'm going to demand compensation, so be prepared.
She continued, not letting me get a word in. However, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. That's funny. And as I started laughing, my parents and David also burst into laughter, leaving Susan dumbfounded. But then she became red with anger.
What's so funny?
It's laughable, really. You've said quite something, Susan.
Huh?
Confused by our reaction, the next to speak was my sister sitting next to me.
That purse isn't Emily's. It's mine.
At that moment, Susan's face froze.
What?
With sweat on her brow, she looked panicked. I then said, "My sister is stealing your wallet? That's impossible, right?" It was clear she had been looking for a chance to cause trouble. I hadn't brought a purse to the dinner, knowing she might pull something. The purse beside me was my sister's, and moreover, my sister couldn't possibly steal anyone's wallet. It was utterly impossible, because my sister has been using a wheelchair due to a condition since childhood, unable to stand or walk on her own. Both my in-laws and Susan had seen her arrive in a wheelchair at the dinner, and knew she hadn't moved from her spot since the dinner started, chatting amicably with our parents and in-laws. Likely, Susan herself had put the wallet in my sister's purse. The real question was when exactly Susan managed to sneak the wallet into the purse without us noticing.
Susan, you came over to greet my parents and me before dinner, right? That time, you were sitting in such a way that my purse was hidden behind you. I felt something off about your actions then. Did you put the wallet in at that moment?
My sister's calm observation clarified my suspicion. Unable to answer immediately, Susan looked around nervously, practically admitting guilt. Cornered with no way out, she groaned back. Then, in a composed tone, my sister continued to reason with her.
I've heard about your character from Emily. Despite being almost the same age as me, resorting to such elaborate harassment is unbecoming of a person. Please don't hurt my dear sister anymore.
Only then did I realize my sister was actually angry. She's usually gentle, but when angry, she becomes quiet and persuasive, which is quite intimidating. After being lectured and unable to retort, Susan was then scolded by my in-laws.
Susan, what are you doing? Accusing Emily of being a thief is beyond embarrassing.
Absolutely disgraceful. We've treated you and David equally. Where did we go wrong? Emily, everyone, we're terribly sorry for our daughter's actions.
Tom apologized to us. However, even seeing her parents apologize, Susan seemed unrepentant. The next moment, she stood up abruptly, glaring at me furiously.
What? You're all making me out to be the villain. I was against your marriage with David from the start. I hoped today would embarrass you into breaking up, but you had to ruin that, didn't you?
She lashed out, leaving us speechless with her audacity. But knowing her true feelings, David was furious. "Don't mess around," he shouted, making her flinch.
How dare you say such things? You've been trying to ruin our relationship. I can't stand it anymore. I'm going to lay it all out right now.
What? Wait, what are you going to say?
She tried to stop him, but David, having reached his limit, didn't hold back. He revealed everything. How she never repaid me for the lunches I covered, how she ambushed us for money, and all her misdeeds. David also shared that she had been spreading terrible rumors about me in an attempt to break us up.
You would believe such words. Emily has been hardworking and kind since she joined the company, and I know her better than anyone. Family or not, there are things you just shouldn't say.
David didn't elaborate on the specifics of the rumors, but his anger suggested they were quite severe. Things like that happened. I was shocked, having heard this for the first time. David looked regretful.
I'm sorry. I didn't want to worry you with unnecessary concerns. No matter what she says, I believe in you, Emily.
His sincere words moved me deeply. Wiping away tears, I faced Susan. Susan, I've decided to follow David no matter what. Please take this opportunity to let go of your brother, I said, flustered or perhaps ashamed. She blushed and retorted, "Shut up, just you wait," before storming out of the house. After the storm passed, I felt a sense of relief. No matter what Susan plans, nothing scares me anymore. My love for David has only deepened through this ordeal, and I've resolved to trust and walk with him into the future. A few days later, the lunch money Susan owed me was returned through my in-laws. They had pressured her to prepare the money she owed me. Furthermore, we received a call from her ex-husband at my in-laws' house. It turns out the cause of their divorce was her spending habits, even dipping into living expenses. She had claimed to have paid the alimony she owed to her ex-husband, but it was revealed there was still a significant amount outstanding, and she had been defaulting on payments. Learning this, my in-laws disowned her, tired of her antics. Not only had she committed misdeeds against us, but she had also stolen money from her family before. It turns out that in addition to alimony, Susan had debt from buying luxury brands and frequenting clubs. According to David, she has been heavily into the club scene since her 20s and has often been admonished by my in-laws for it. Ultimately, unable to manage her finances, she even embezzled money from her workplace, which led to her recent dismissal. Days later, I received a call from Susan, who had been kicked out of her family home and lost her job.
I have no one else to turn to but you, Emily. Please, could you lend me some money, just a little?
She begged in tears, but of course, I refused. Isn't it a bit too convenient to ask now? Pay off your alimony and debts with money you earn from a legitimate job. I have no intention of involving myself with you anymore.
But, aren't we family? Let's try to get along from now on.
I did want to get along with you at first, but I don't wish to be family with someone who spends recklessly and doesn't think they've done anything wrong. After I firmly stated my position, she was still ranting about something, but I hung up without paying her any heed. Afterward, it was heard that Susan started living in poverty in a cheap apartment she could afford with her meager savings. However, she was chased by debt collectors and soon had to leave the apartment. It's unclear where she is or how she's living now. David also said he would never get involved with his sister again. A month passed, and we held our wedding without her presence. It was a joyous occasion blessed by many, creating unforgettable memories that I cherish. After the wedding, we moved into our prepared new home and soon discovered I was pregnant. Anticipating the arrival of our child, David and I are enjoying fulfilling days. We hope to continue living happily with our new family member and the days to come.
You still don't have kids? Can't even show off a grandkid? What a failure.
While sitting on a park bench, taking a brief break, a woman approached and started talking to me. That condescending look in her eyes and her tone of voice. No doubt, it was her. Surprised by the sudden reunion, I was at a loss for words. But why would she bring up the topic of kids so suddenly? While hiding my confusion, I told the woman the truth. My kid is right over there. The moment I said that, her eyes widened in shock. My name is Emily, 37 years old. Now I'm married with kids and living a happy life, but I've overcome various difficulties to get here. The story goes back to when I was in high school. I had a boyfriend named Jake. I met Jake during my freshman year of high school. As a child, I wasn't very good at talking to people. Because of this, I couldn't fit in well and had few friends. It was lonely. I often wondered if things would have been different if I were more sociable. Since elementary school, I've been prone to overthinking. When I got to middle school, I resolved to be more outgoing and make lots of friends. I set this goal before graduating from elementary school, but ultimately, I didn't achieve it. I thought if I didn't change in high school, I'd be like this for life. Knowing I'd be separated from my friends in high school, I felt even more pressure to change. However, my personality didn't change in high school. While everyone else was making new friends and having fun, I was alone in a corner of the classroom. I'd either be reading books or pretending to sleep. I just kept to myself all the time. I remember crying at home many times because I felt so miserable. Then one day, something happened that would greatly change my life. It was during one of the few seat changes that occur each year. It seems the method of drawing lots for seat changes is the same in every school. Well, I thought my life wouldn't change much with a seat change, and I was prepared to continue living alone. Without much expectation or anxiety, I moved my desk to the spot indicated by the lottery, and there was Jake sitting next to me.
Hey, Emily. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Jake, who hadn't interacted much with me, kindly spoke to me. Originally, I had the impression that Jake was kind to everyone, so I felt relieved that I wasn't an exception. But I thought this would probably be it. We didn't go to the same middle school or have common hobbies. I figured we'd only talk if there was some business to attend to. However, my expectation was completely wrong. Surprisingly, Jake started actively talking to me. At first, it was just trivial conversations, but as days went by, the topics became more diverse. I, who used to be nervous talking with Jake, could now talk to him as a friend. I never imagined this would happen. I savored the joy of having made a new friend. It might sound exaggerated, but friends were that special to me. Then, a year later, I was in my sophomore year of high school, and thankfully, Jake was in the same class. Then one day, suddenly, Jake confessed his feelings to me. I never dreamed of being confessed to and was bewildered.
I've always liked you. It's no surprise you're shocked, but I've been hoping we could be together.
But I didn't feel any disgust. Rather, I wondered if it was really okay for someone like me to be his girlfriend. Is it really okay for me to be your girlfriend?
Don't say that. I want it to be you, Emily, but I won't force you.
Jake said, looking down, continuing to express his feelings. Receiving his sentiments, I responded, I would be happy to be with you, Jake. Let's do this.
Really, that makes me so happy.
Jake's face brightened with joy. Since starting to date Jake, my life changed significantly. Though I always walked to and from school alone, then I would see Jake by my side. Instead of staying in on weekends, I had more fulfilling times because Jake would take me out. I didn't know if Jake was thinking about our future together, but at least I wanted to walk through life with him. I liked him that much. As time went on, we visited each other's homes more often. So I got to know Jake's family, and he got to know mine. Every time he came over, I saw him getting along well with my family. Jake's parents thought very highly of me. My parents, too, were very positive.
Never thought you'd date such a good kid. I'm surprised.
Can't believe you snagged such a great guy.
My parents knew I was shy. So, when I told them I had a boyfriend, they were quite surprised. Time passed, and Jake and I graduated from high school. I went to a local university's economics department, while Jake, wanting to become a doctor, went to medical school. He had always spoken about wanting to be a doctor, and he was then taking the first step toward his dream. I deeply respected him for that. Even though we went to different universities, we didn't break up. Instead, we made a conscious effort to see each other when we could. Jake, being focused on becoming a doctor, seemed busy with studies and training. Time flew, and I graduated from university. Then, I got a job at a local company. By this time, both Jake and I were living on our own, visiting each other's places when we had time. 2 years later, Jake graduated and finally achieved his dream of becoming a doctor. Another 2 years passed. When both of our careers had stabilized, Jake proposed to me.
I want to be with you forever. Will you marry me?
Of course. I, who had always envisioned a future with Jake, would never refuse his proposal. I happily accepted. The thought of being with Jake forever felt like a dream. While savoring the happiness of being proposed to, I thought about our future life together. Even after we got engaged, our closeness remained the same. Preparing for the marriage registration and wedding was tough, but we managed it by helping each other. I relished the joy of being able to marry Jake. I was so glad to be marrying Jake. But then, unexpectedly, my life took a drastic turn.
Hey, Emily, can we just forget about getting married?
What? I was taken aback by the sudden suggestion. What do you mean?
I mean, let's call off the engagement.
Why? I couldn't understand why Jake wanted to call off the engagement. Whether I had done something wrong or he had grown to dislike me. It's hard to accept this all of a sudden. We've already met each other's families and progressed with the preparations. How can we call off the engagement now? I can't accept this.
I'm really sorry. I'll take responsibility and pay compensation. But I just can't marry you, Emily. I'm truly sorry. I know an apology isn't enough, but sorry.
What's the reason?
I can't tell you.
We had been dating since high school, promising each other a future and thinking of building a happy home together. So why? Why can't you tell me?
It's just not possible.
No matter how much I asked, Jake only apologized. Eventually, I caved, and the engagement was called off. Jake had mentioned paying a settlement, but I never accepted it. I wanted to forget about him as soon as possible. After being informed of the broken engagement, I immediately told my parents. Both were as sad as if it were their own sorrow, only making me feel more apologetic. Why did Jake want to call off the engagement? Did he dislike me, or was there someone else he loved? Had I been the only one who thought we were happy together? No matter how much I pondered, I couldn't find the answer with Jake saying nothing. It was agonizing to speculate alone. For a while, I went through my days without feeling alive, unable to focus on work or anything I liked. However, 6 months later, I unexpectedly learned why Jake had called off the engagement. One day, told by my mom there was something she needed to discuss, I went home and was greeted by my sister, Sarah, smirking maliciously, which was unusual.
Oh, you actually came.
Well, yeah, Mom called me. But why are you here?
Why can't I be? This is also my parents' house, isn't it? I don't need to explain myself to you. Besides, I have something I want to report, so I decided to come.
Something you want to report? What could she possibly want to announce that required calling me here? Noticing my concern, Sarah smirked again and pressed on.
You'll be happy to hear it. Just wait and see.
With that, Sarah went back to the living room. I couldn't trust what Sarah said. She claimed it would be something I'd be happy about, but it was probably a lie. A wave of anxiety overwhelmed me, and I wanted to leave right then and there. It had been a long time since our whole family gathered around the dining table. Usually, it was a joyful atmosphere, but Sarah's presence made the air much heavier. Yet, Sarah seemed unfazed, continuing to talk about whatever she pleased. Despite living together for years, I still couldn't understand what was going through Sarah's mind. It was unsettling.
Right. I'll just say it.
During the meal, Sarah started talking in a cheerful tone. The moment she spoke, I felt suffocated. I tried to calm myself and listen to her.
I'm getting married.
Married?
Yeah, to Jake.
What? I couldn't believe my ears. That couldn't be true. Wait, Jake.
Yeah, Jake.
Did Jake, my ex-fiancé?
Yes, your ex-fiancé, Jake.
Sarah answered without any hint of guilt. Glancing at my parents, I could tell they were speechless. However, Sarah, without changing her expression, cheerfully continued discussing the marriage registration and wedding plans.
I'm seriously so happy marrying Jake. It feels like finally, because of someone, things couldn't move forward.
Someone?
Oh, you're asking, it's you. Convincing Jake was really tough.
You deliberately stole her fiancé.
Stop saying stole. Ultimately, Jake chose me. I didn't do anything wrong, right? If anyone, it's Emily who got dumped by Jake, I think.
Sarah was unapologetic, and our parents were furious. I couldn't grasp the situation and kept repeating the same words.
How could you do this? Marriage is supposed to be joyful, but not in your case. Saying you struggled to persuade him means you had practically forced him, didn't you?
Come on, don't make it sound so bad. Sure, I knew Jake and Emily were going to get married. But like I said, Jake chose me in the end. If you want to point out something bad about me, I can't think of anything.
You're unbelievable.
I couldn't respond. The only thing that echoed in my mind was Sarah's shrill laughter. Sarah had always disliked me from the beginning. Even before I started kindergarten, she clearly told me, "You shouldn't have been born." As I grew up, Sarah never changed her stance.
If you weren't born, I could have everything to myself. All the food, the toys, everything.
But that's not something I can help with.
Shut up.
Sarah seemed to only see me as an outlet for her stress. She would take her anger out on me to feel better. Even if she was in a good mood, seeing me would instantly sour it.
I was feeling good, but seeing your face just ruins it. It's the worst.
I don't know what to say to that.
That's what annoys me about you. Always talking back.
Sarah is the one taking offense on her own. It's not something I can fix. So, could you not snap at me too? It makes me feel bad as well.
That's what I mean. Stop talking back. It's annoying.
But Sarah did more than just hurl hurtful words. She regularly shifted the blame for her misdeeds onto me. She would immediately tattle to our parents, playing the victim. Although they knew I hadn't done anything and scolded Sarah many times, she never stopped making me out to be the villain. There were instances of her hiding my things or ruining my homework and important papers, forcing me to apologize to teachers multiple times. Of course, I hated Sarah. I didn't want to be in the same space as her, but I couldn't always have my way. I lived under her influence until I moved out to live on my own. However, there was a time when Sarah seemed a bit nicer. That was when I started dating Jake. When Jake first visited our home, Sarah's mood noticeably improved.
Well, Emily's boyfriend? He's handsome.
Well, that's
great, Emily. Your first boyfriend, right?
Well, yeah. Sarah's mood didn't change after that. She just kept alternating her attention between me and Jake, bombarding us with questions. On another day, Sarah's mood instantly improved upon seeing Jake, and she loudly welcomed him. I realized Sarah liked Jake, and it made me feel sick.
Hey, your boyfriend is super handsome. Why is he dating you?
I don't know.
By the way, is it true he wants to be a doctor? Is he smart?
He's smart. He even helps me with my studies. He's always said he wanted to be a doctor. Sarah listened to me and smirked suspiciously.
Wow, which university is he aiming for?
I don't know. Something medical?
As his girlfriend, you don't know which university he's aiming for. Aren't you a failure as a girlfriend?
I knew, but I just didn't want to tell Sarah. She had no way of knowing the truth and kept provoking me. She must have wanted to say she's the right woman for Jake. Yeah. Think whatever you want.
You really annoy me. Don't get cocky.
Sarah, seemingly displeased with my attitude, effortlessly threw hurtful words at me. Her attempts to appeal to Jake knew no bounds. Listening to his private life, touching him, her excessive behavior continued unabated. Jake seemed troubled too, but all I could do was apologize to him for Sarah's actions. Time passed, and Jake stopped visiting our house. Maybe that was where Sarah's involvement should have ended. But who would have thought Jake broke off our engagement to marry Sarah? No matter how much I tried to make sense of it, I couldn't keep up. Seeing me like this, Sarah laughed out loud again.
Man, marrying Jake is the best.
Do you really think this is okay? To take someone's fiancé like that?
Yeah, so what's wrong with that? I don't know how Emily feels, but I'm on top of the world. I get to marry the man I love. Oh, sorry, shouldn't say that in front of someone who got dumped.
Sarah continued to taunt me. While my parents were still angry, I had no energy left to respond. I just felt the tears rolling down my cheeks.
Are you crying? That's not cute, you know. Oh, but you weren't cute to begin with.
Sarah, just get out, now. You're no family of mine.
Don't ever show your face here again.
How mean. I just came to make a happy announcement.
Despite my parents' rage trying to kick her out, Sarah just laughed. I didn't want to see Sarah's face ever again. But there was one last thing I needed to ask. Hey, why did you choose Jake?
You mean, why I chose Jake?
Yeah, why go out of your way to choose someone else's fiancé? That was the last thing I wanted to know. The reason she chose Jake. I knew it would be messy, but I was genuinely curious about her reasoning. To my question, Sarah answered with glee.
Because he's a doctor.
What?
Yay, because Jake became a doctor. I had my eye on him since I heard he wanted to be one. I got his social media info from him a while back, so he wrote something about becoming a doctor. So I thought I'd reach out, just on a whim, and he replied just like that. The rest is history.
Maybe at first, Jake responded because Sarah was my sister, but to go from there to marriage, what was he thinking? Perhaps he just got overwhelmed by Sarah's advances, but doing that at the expense of me, his fiancé at that time, also seems questionable.
When I showed a bit of interest, he just fell for it. And to think, he always acts so composed. He's actually quite reserved, huh?
That's terrible.
You asked why Jake chose me, so I told you.
Sarah laughed without remorse. Seeing this, our parents became even angrier.
Do you even have a heart?
What's that? You're so harsh.
Harsh or not, You're a disgrace to be a daughter. I won't be attending your wedding. Don't you ever set foot in this house again.
Dad then grabbed Sarah by the arm and forcibly dragged her outside.
Hey, what are you doing?
Even Sarah was taken aback by Dad's actions. Though Mom and I were shocked, Sarah had taken things too far. I wished she would never appear before me again. Mom probably felt the same. That's why nobody stopped Dad.
I'll be happy. Just you wait. I'll have lots of kids, live in a nice house, and show you, Emily, just you watch, all alone.
With those words, Sarah was thrown out of the house. Remembering her triumphant look towards me, my head ached. But this might finally sever ties with her. I felt somewhat relieved thinking that way. I realized it had been 10 years since that turmoil. My interaction with Sarah had ceased, and I was living a peaceful life, which made me happy. One day, I was sitting alone on a park bench, drinking coffee. In the cold season, the warm coffee was comforting. As I relaxed and let my mind wander, a woman approached me.
Do you still have no kids? Can't even show off a grandkid? What a failure.
I looked towards where the voice came from. A flood of unpleasant memories rushed back. The condescending look and tone of voice. She seemed much thinner than before, but it was undoubtedly Sarah. Shocked by the sudden reunion, I was speechless. Why would she suddenly bring up children? While hiding my confusion, I pointed to a child nearby and revealed the truth. My kid is right there. At that moment, I could see Sarah's eyes widen in shock.
What? That can't be true. Aren't you single? A single person with a child?
Well, I'm married.
What? You're married?
In fact, after Jake broke off our engagement, I married a colleague from my company. His name is Bob. Originally, Bob and I worked in different departments and knew each other to some extent. However, we got closer after his transfer, and it led to marriage. Shocked that I was married, Sarah stared at me in disbelief.
But you had your fiancé stolen by me.
That's true, but there's no rule saying I couldn't marry someone else if it didn't work out with Jake, right? I married a colleague from work.
I can't believe you caught a new man. You're shy, introverted, gloomy, and creepy. How come?
Sarah couldn't believe I was married. She opened and closed her mouth, struggling to find words. Just so you know, I've shown our kids to Dad and everyone. What about you? Weren't you going to have lots of kids with Jake and live in a nice house?
Stop. My life is none of your business.
It is related. You assumed I had no kids and started this. Why are you even here? Sarah didn't answer my question. Looking away, she seemed desperate to think of a response. But I didn't wait for her to reply, continuing to bombard her with questions. So, how are things going with Jake? Are you in touch with our parents? What are you doing now?
Shut up. Just shut up.
Can't answer. Maybe nothing is going well for you? Not getting along with Jake and no kids. No contact with our parents.
I said, shut up.
Sarah just kept repeating the same thing. Seeing her refuse to answer, I lost my patience. Well, if things were going well, you wouldn't react like this. You approached me to boast, right? Or maybe you and Jake couldn't have kids.
Why would you say that?
Sarah looked at me with disbelief. She probably wondered how I knew that she and Jake couldn't have children. Why? Because after the engagement, I did a bridal check with Jake. That's when we found out he couldn't have kids. I still loved him and was willing to marry him. I thought Jake would tell you before getting married. Didn't he? Or didn't you want to ask?
I didn't know. I wasn't told.
Always the same with you, never at fault. It's always been that way, pushing responsibility onto others, claiming you're not to blame. I don't know what you're thinking, but shouldn't a couple discuss having kids if they really want them? Did you even try anything? You had the energy to steal someone's fiancé.
Quiet. Quiet. What do you know about my feelings? You had Jake stolen from you. You shouldn't be happier than me.
Sarah ranted at me, trying to close the distance, but her gaunt appearance took away any sense of threat. It seemed she just couldn't stand seeing me happier than her. She continued with, even though you had your fiancé stolen, and you can't possibly have kids. It's all in your head. She kept repeating the same statements, desperately refusing to accept reality. At that moment, I saw a small child running towards us from the corner of my eye. It was my daughter, Abby.
Mom? Who is this person?
Abby asked apprehensively about Sarah's identity. This person is my older sister.
Wow, Mom has a sister.
Yes, but we had a fight and haven't spoken for years.
Oh, I see.
Abby then looked closely at Sarah. She then spoke again.
Why didn't you tell me about her before?
With a self-satisfied smile, I answered, not minding my pettiness. Because she used to make me out to be the bad guy.
What? That's awful.
At that, Sarah, who had been eyeing Abby enviously, suddenly spoke up.
Hey, there's no need to say that in front of a child.
I'm just stating the facts. I don't want her to think you're a good person. It's important to make it clear you're not.
You know, stop making up weird things. Look, Abby, it's just your mom's sister. Nothing scary, right?
Sarah tried to sound gentle as she approached Abby, but Abby, feeling wary, hid behind me.
Hey, you!
Are you getting mad at a child now? I mean, it's rich coming from me, but you're really immature, you know?
Shut up. You have no room to.
What's going on?
Just as our argument seemed to escalate again, a man's voice came from behind. Turning around, I saw Bob, my husband. That day, we had come to the park as a family of 3, and Sarah had approached me while Bob was momentarily away.
Who is this?
It's Sarah.
Oh.
As soon as he heard Sarah's name, Bob's face visibly soured. Unaware, Sarah approached Bob with a plastered smile.
Oh, you're Emily's husband. Well, you're pretty handsome. Why didn't you introduce me before?
I didn't see the need to do so. Plus, I didn't want you bothering him. No one knows what you might do.
Oh, come on. I'm Sarah, Emily's sister. Nice to meet you.
Sarah continued with the same clawing tone she had used when she introduced herself to Jake. Bob, however, kept frowning and listened to her without changing his expression. I had told Bob about Sarah, how she stole my fiancé, and all the trouble she caused me since we were kids.
Oh, how about we get together for a meal sometime? It's been a while since we met, Emily. We should cherish this connection.
I'll pass.
Contrary to Sarah's tone, Bob firmly declined the invitation.
That's cold. Don't you think so, Emily?
What? After all this time? Not at all. Again, I sensed that Sarah was targeting Bob, just like she did with Jake, my intuition screaming at me. At that moment, Bob stood protectively in front of Abby and me.
I've heard everything about you from Emily. I don't know why you're here today, but please don't involve yourself with us anymore.
Everything.
Yes, exactly. How you stole her fiancé, how you've been harassing her since you were kids, how you lash out at Emily when you're in a bad mood, and belittle her at every chance. Listening to all you've done brought me to tears.
That's an exaggeration. But I haven't done anything wrong, have I? Jake chose me in the end, so we got married. That's all there is to it.
You created the opportunity, didn't you?
Dropping her facade, Sarah began to show her true colors.
Opportunity? What do you mean? Can you explain? It's possible that everything Emily said was a lie, right? Trusting such a woman. You must be foolish.
Sure, keep talking. So you did create the opportunity, right?
Enough. It's all in the past. So why does it matter now?
Oh, right. Should I call our parents and ask? When you came to announce your marriage, you talked about why you were getting married, right? They might remember. Maybe I can find Jake's contact in the old address book. Or should I ask on social media? I wasn't going to let her evade the conversation. I kept pressing Sarah desperately. But it wasn't just empty talk. I could ask our parents if needed, and Jake's contact information is in the address book.
There's no need to go that far.
There it is again. I'm tired of you spouting nonsense. You're embarrassing, you know? From the looks of it, you and Jake are fighting or divorced, right? You don't seem happy at all.
How do you know that?
It's obvious. Things aren't going well with Jake, are they? Resigned to my words, Sarah started to speak quietly about what had happened. Apparently, Jake had divorced her a long time ago. The reason was a mismatch in personalities. Despite getting married, she was told that he grew tired of her constant selfishness. She hadn't even told our parents.
I saw you while I was just walking around here. Thought I'd annoy you a bit to vent my frustration.
Our meeting in the park was truly coincidental. Given her unpredictability, I thought it might be wise to avoid letting Abby play here from now on.
I married him because he was a doctor, but he earns less than I expected. And he's not good looking, quiet. I thought about returning him to you, but your contact had changed and I couldn't reach you. Luckily, he asked for the divorce first.
That's terrible. You divorced for such reasons. You ended up being dumped. How sad for you? Glancing at Bob beside me, it was clear he was put off by Sarah's behavior. A natural reaction, really. But Sarah didn't seem to care about us at all. Seemingly content after sharing her current situation, she made an offer that was hard to believe.
But it's perfect timing. Hey, why don't you live with me? I'm lonely being alone.
What? I couldn't believe she was still saying things like that. Her self-centered behavior made me raise my voice in disbelief. There's no way I would live with you. Besides,
don't say that. Come on, I'll behave from now on, so please.
How can I believe that? Just disappear from our lives already.
What? Can't you listen to your older sister?
Sarah seemed to think that persisting would make her get her way. Her terrible manner of speaking made me hold my head in frustration. But then, Bob spoke up.
There's no way I can live with someone like you. Just disappear from our sight. Even our daughter is scared.
That's harsh.
What's harsh? You're the terrible one here. Please, just disappear from our lives.
The usually gentle Bob wasn't there. He, visibly furious, raised his voice in anger at Sarah.
Playing the victim all this time, saying whatever you want. Enough already, say something, Emily.
What are you talking about? Why don't you just stop being so stubborn? If you're lonely, why don't you go back to our parents' house?
I absolutely hate that. If they found out how miserable my life is. Plus, it feels like losing to you.
Isn't it too late for such talk? As far as I'm concerned, whatever happens to you is none of my business. Don't you see all this is your own doing? If you've realized that, then disappear quickly. Before I knew it, several people were watching our argument.
Remember this. I'll make you regret this.
She apparently disliked the attention. Sarah spat out her last words and awkwardly left the scene. A few days later, I was watching TV alone at home when my phone rang. The call was from a payphone. Initially, I ignored it, but the persistence made me answer with trepidation. Then, from the other end of the phone, I heard a voice I recognized. It was Sarah.
Emily, help me.
What? All of a sudden?
I have no money, can't pay rent, and have to leave my place. I tried contacting Dad, friends, even Jake, but no one will help me. You're my last hope. Can we start over? Please, I won't be selfish anymore. Just let me stay at your place.
Why would I help you? Sarah, in a completely different, frail voice, pleaded with me, but I had no obligation to heed her request.
We met again in the park by fate, right? I thought you would help me.
Cut it out. You assuming there's some connection to me is really bothersome. Anyway, I absolutely won't help you. I don't care about your lack of money, and no one helping you is the result of your actions. Reflect on your past deeds.
But
if you contact me again, I'll consider talking to the police or a lawyer. Got it? Honestly, I doubted the police or a lawyer would act on this matter. It was all bluster. However, Sarah seemed frightened by these words. She then hastily hung up. After that, there was no further action from Sarah. I still have no idea what she's up to now. Perhaps she finally realized that no one would help her. Whatever the reason, it's no longer our concern. After all her selfish actions and the trouble she caused, I do hope she faces the consequences. My husband and I continue to live a happy life, unchanged by the past. Initially devastated by the broken engagement, I worried about what my future would hold. Now, I'm grateful to be married to a wonderful man like Bob, building a happy family together. I hope we can continue to walk towards a bright future as a family. These thoughts cross my mind as I look at our family photo.